Par rapport aux grands projets européens classiques, car ils donnent l'occasion à de jeunes entreprises telles que les nôtres de prouver leur leadership dans un domaine aussi important que la bioéconomie. La rupture est donc double. Une start-up française qui pilote un consortium international de grands acteurs économiques et qui les embarque autour d'une technologie, d'un projet commun et ambitieux pour permettre un réel impact sur l'industrie de demain.
Building a biorefinery goes far beyond a competitive business model, reaching a large local community. It is creating highly skilled direct and indirect jobs, generating alternative income sources for biomass producers, and ultimately reviving local economies. Meanwhile, on the Italian island of Sardinia, local farmers provide vegetable oils from underutilized crops to the first-to-run flagship biorefinery, which produces such bio-based products as compostable coffee pods, polyester, cosmetics, and plastics. From east to west and north to south, the bio-based sector is leading Europe's circular revolution. Together, we're building a competitive circular bioeconomy, working hand in hand for a sustainable future across Europe. In each seed we plant, in every sustainable solution we cultivate, lies the promise for a better, greener world.
Sziasztok! Leonardo vagyunk, és szeretnénk meghívni titeket a webináriumra.
A webinárium célja, hogy bemutassuk nektek a biomassa alapú gazdaságot itt van Magyarországon, illetve a hozzátartozó karrier lehetőségeket, és a szektoron belül még a hozzátartozó fenntarthatósági témákat is. A webinárt március 13-án reggel 10 és 11:30 között tartjuk.
A társszervezők a Baj Zoltán Non-Profit, a RCISD és az ÖMKI.
Ott találkozunk. Sziasztok!
Sziasztok! Az RCSD-ben számos a fenntarthatósággal kapcsolatos kutatási projektet valósítottunk már meg, ezért vagyunk itt. Jelenleg futó projektünkben pedig a Bioeconomy projektben, ami 13 ország részvételével zajlik, azt vizsgáljuk, azt kutatjuk, hogy a helyi gazdaságfejlesztésben milyen szerepe lehet a megújuló energiaforrásnak, ezen belül is a biomasszának, különösen ami a szociális kérdéseket illeti. Bioeconomy Changemakers Festival részeként az Európai Bizottság és 23 ország részvételével zajló projekten belül jön létre.
A Baj Zoltán Kutatóközpont egyik kiemelt kompetencia területe az agráriumhoz kötődik, mivel már közel egy évtizede valósítunk meg a biomassa alapú gazdasághoz kötődő projekteket, kutatásokat és fejlesztéseket, és nyújtunk szolgáltatásokat ezzel kapcsolatban a partnereinknek. A webináriumon találkozhattok a terület szakértőivel, és megismerhetitek az egyik nemzetközi projektünket, az Engage for Bio-t.
Dear friends of the bioeconomy, dear changemakers, we at TUM Campus Schwabing for Biotechnology and Sustainability are very proud to be able to organize a satellite event as part of the Bioeconomy Changemakers Festival together with the city and other
Hello, everybody, and welcome back. That music was a sign for you to either get up and dance or sit down and be quiet, one or the other. So, welcome back to our audience online and to everyone here. Those of you who are here, I don't know if you took the opportunity to go downstairs to visit the stands, the exhibition area, and there is a photo booth where you can take photos of yourself together with our logo, but please make sure you take advantage of that at lunch. And to help you, the lunch is right next to the exhibition, so there's no excuse. Please go and visit the stands and find out more of what's happening down there. So this session is going to be very different. I have an incredibly complex script. But this is the youth section. So we're actually going to divide that into two parts. The first part is an opportunity for you to find out more about the Bioeconomy Youth Ambassadors who've been working to develop their vision, and they will present their vision. And then we're going to have a youth assembly to hear from different organizations, youth advocates, what their viewpoints are and what their perspectives are. So I'm expecting a lot of input from you. So be ready to engage very actively. And for those of you who are watching online, you too can be part of it. You'll be using Slido. The Q&A function will be used, as well as the polling function. So you'll all have a chance to be part of this vision. But before we go into that, and yes, thank you, there's the Slido code for those of you who need reminding. The hashtag at slido.com is the EU Bioeconomy. But before we get into all of that, I'd like us to connect back to Victor in Spain. You remember when we first connected to him this morning, we heard he's got a group of school children who are coming together because they had big news to find out who had won the prize for these amazing films and animations and stop motions that they'd done. And Victor would like to send us a live selfie of his community back to Brussels. So let's see if we can connect in with Victor. Hola, Victor.
Hi Brussels, hi again. Hi everyone. We are full of activity already here. As you see, we've had the different sets of activities. We've got also a photo call here, the virtual reality activity there. At the back, we have the urban dance from time to time. And also, I would like to show you how we are also interviewing our students and just trying to record what they have to do and what they have to say about the bioeconomy. So here we have the professional TV set. Let's listen to them.
Is you can do back with the peel of potatoes and onions.
Nice.
And what surprised me, it's the coffee because you can do mask for your skin.
And you, Roger?
I surprise a lot because with the peels of the different fruits, you can do composting.
And as you know, many food waste is produced in the school canteen, right? Could you explain us what you have learned on how can we prevent or reduce this food waste?
Yes.
So as you see, we're full of activity and our kids are teaching us also a lot about bioeconomy. So a big hug to everyone throughout Europe. And this is our satellite event. We're more than happy to join. Best of luck to the rest of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Victor, and bye. So there you can see that they've taken the definition of young people in a very broad context, and those are primary-age kids who are also learning about composting and food waste and how to look at things differently. So, as I promised, I'm now going to hand over to our youth ambassadors who are going to lead you through this process, and I'm just here as the safety net in case additional support is needed. But let me invite two of our bioeconomy youth ambassadors. That's Dara Cogley and Haley Kenta. Please, come and join me. Take a microphone and The floor is yours.
Hello, hello, hello. Thank you very much, and it's really great to see everybody here. It's such a nice dynamic, actually, seeing such a mixture of ages, people from different countries, and ultimately we think that's what the bioeconomy should be about. The bioeconomy is about connection, it's about connecting people from all across the world, it's about connecting different systems and trying to work better and to help to co-create the conditions conducive to life. So today we're going to talk about different things. We wanted to make this a little bit different from the usual festival, and we wanted to try and talk about things sometimes that don't necessarily get said, sometimes at conferences. So as young people, honestly, we're very scared about the future. We're very sad about what's happening in the world, and we want to be able to actually talk about those things at these events. So we're going to introduce something, and it's called the elephant in the room, where everybody has the chance to actually talk about these things together and actually take the opportunity to talk to people from other generations about these things as well, because ultimately, we're all here working towards the same thing. So
yeah, so speaking of bringing everyone together, we have opened the Slido, so feel free to already, if it's on the screen, like a QR code or the hashtag EUBioeconomy on slido.com. And we encourage you to basically put in a word, just one word, of how you're feeling about the future. Are you hopeful? Are you fearful? Any word, it's anonymous. And we'll keep this Slido open throughout our discussion, so if your opinion changes, feel free to also change it. You're more than welcome to. And with that being said, I'd like to invite my fellow EU Bioeconomy Youth Ambassadors to the stage.
I would stand. Okay. Please move on.
We'll stand. Oh, no.
Okay, so welcome to all of you. And I know that there are more of you within the group who have joined, who will be joining us online. But let's start by saying many of you may know the audience individually, but they don't know you as a group. But let's start by, could you each introduce yourselves, tell us your name, which country you come from, and which part of the bioeconomy you're active in. If you remember at the beginning, we asked people where they came from in terms of the sector, but the bioeconomy is also things like forestry, it's agriculture, it's food, it's technology. So let's get a sense of the range of experience that you have within your group. So who would like to start by introducing themselves?
Thank you so much. My name is Stefano Bertacchi. I'm a researcher in industrial biotechnology and an assistant professor at the University of Milano Bicocca in northern Italy and for the National Biodiversity Future Center. My work is mainly focused on the development of biorefineries based on residual biomasses and microbial cell factories, often specifically yeasts, and often genetically modified by an approach of synthetic biology. So I'm more focused on the proper use of biomass and waste material and its alternative disposal, and the engineering of microbes to produce fine and bulk chemicals as an alternative to the others derived from fossil resources. So I'm really glad to be part of this wonderful group of the EU Bioeconomy Youth Ambassadors and work together with wonderful people with this Bioeconomy Youth Vision that we are presenting today, and really happy to be the opportunity to have this intergenerational exchange between also people that is young at me, because I'm the oldest one, unfortunately. So definitely it was a great opportunity.
Yeah, speaking of intergenerational, like Stefano's the oldest, but I'm actually the youngest, so it's the perfect combination, and we're sitting next to each other. So I'm Hailey Chantar. I come from Malta, so I was born and raised in Malta, and now I'm studying law in the Netherlands. So when we had to put on the Slido, I put other. because I come from a legal background, but also a farming background. So in Malta, I'm also a part-time farmer. So it's a combination of farming and law, two different aspects of bioeconomy. And also, I have launched together with Rita near me the Bioeconomy Matters podcast. So I'm also the host of the Bioeconomy Matters podcast, the world's ever first podcast dedicated to bioeconomy. So we're very proud of that. And now I'll pass the floor to Rita.
Yeah, thank you. At least Belgium is our highest listener, so it's good to be with our biggest fan today. So I'm Rita from Portugal. I'm a PhD student at Nova University of Lisbon, and my research is about bio-based materials coming from agro-industrial residues. And yeah, I also help in the podcast, in case you didn't notice. I will pass to Dara.
Hello, my name is Dara, so I'm from Ireland, but living in Barcelona. And there I'm working as a sustainability consultant as well as a professor of sustainable business and economics, where we're trying to essentially try and reconcile business and economics within planetary boundaries and social foundations, and try and use business and economics as a force to regenerate and redistribute. I'll pass you on to my friend Peter now.
Yes, thank you, Dara. I'm Peter Nachtergaal. I'm born, raised, living, working in Ghent, Belgium. It's a great place. I'm working at Ghent University, where I teach and do research on assessing and improving the sustainability of systems, production systems, especially if you're at low TRL, so if you're really still in the lab, there's not a lot of data, and you want to know if your technology will contribute to the green transition, then you can come talk to me.
Hello, I'm Olivia Mrozinski. I'm from Germany. I am studying in my bachelor's Technology of Biogenic Resources. And there we learn how do we actually create materials out of biomass and what do we have to be cautious of. And it's a complex topic, so there's a lot to learn, but I really like it.
Excellent, thank you. So these are just some of the youth bioeconomy ambassadors who've been working together for a while, and they will have a chance to talk and engage more with you. But we thank those of them as well who are not physically here with them, but in spirit, and who helped contribute to this, which is the youth vision for the EU bioeconomy. And it's a really exciting document, but there's a couple of things I need to say about it. First of all, it was developed entirely by the youth ambassadors themselves, with input from other young people, from youth organizations who have all been mentioned and got an acknowledgement in this document. And some of the satellite events that you've connected in with, some of them also contributed and will want to comment, and we'll have a chance to feed back for them. But what you see in here, this document, it represents the views of the youth ambassadors themselves, and it doesn't bind either the European Commission or any of the contributors or the satellite events. It is very much their vision that was developed with input, with consultation support, but the ownership and the leadership for this piece of work lies very much with the youth ambassadors. So thank you for that. And we are going to you'll see on the screen later the QR code for you to download this and to share it as widely as you can. And we know that other organizations have already started to put out their own commentaries and documents on this. So we're hoping that this starts a sort of real conversation. So having said that about the document, now I'm going to invite the youth ambassadors to take us through it, introduce it. And starting, Hayley's going to give a general introduction about the vision and what was the start of the process. So please.
Thank you very much, Tamsin, and thank you for the disclaimer. Coming from a law background, I appreciate it. And also thank you to the European Commission, not just for their invite, but also for giving us a platform. We really appreciate it. So I'm Hayley Chantar, and I'm one of the EU Bioeconomy Youth Ambassador. And throughout our mandate, we've done various initiatives, one of those being our Bioeconomy Youth Vision. So what inspired us to take on this role of creating this vision is that we have seen that us youth are at the forefront of change, but we're usually underrepresented. And we realize that our voices are not present, let alone heard. And I don't know about you, but I feel very present here today. And when speaking about youth, we usually talk about youth in the future. Oh, they're our future change makers. They're our future policy makers. But I don't know, I feel very present. I'm here, I want to talk about my future, but also my present. And that's what we want to do with our vision, to shed light upon the challenges that we're facing in this multi-crisis that's happening right here, right now, but we're also happening right here, right now, so we should also have a voice. And that's what we're doing with the Bioeconomy Youth Vision. We're, as EU Bioeconomy Youth Ambassadors, it is our responsibility and our duty to be the voice of European youth in terms of bioeconomy matters in the European Union. And we're doing this through through our Bioeconomy Youth Vision. And in fact, we have our definition of bioeconomy, as we all do, seeing from the podcast, everyone has their own definition of bioeconomy, very similar but a bit different. And our definition is, and I quote, a holistic approach to achieving a resilient, circular, bio-based economy through a just transition that consciously aims to reduce economic throughput within our planet's regenerative capacity. A holistic approach. So we understand that the economy does not stand alone. It is also linked to social, political, and scientific segments within our system. And the Bioeconomy Youth Vision focuses on 5 key areas. We have the decision-making, the education, the economic aspect, bio-based resources, and also the future of bioeconomy. And we will be addressing each and every part of those segments. So I'll pass the floor to my fellow ambassador, Olivia, to start. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I think we are all aware by now that our actions today will shape the lives of our and future generations. How stressful is that? But it's also really exciting. We find young people involved in political matters everywhere, at events and youth groups, at climate strikes that happen over and over again. But we find that our voices are too often missing when it comes to the actual decision-making process. There's a study done that points out that the average age of a European Parliament member is over 50, while that of the general population is around 44 years old. There's a clear lack of youth representation in many levels of governance. So, how can we bridge this gap? In our youth vision, in this first chapter, we point out 3 key ways to rebuild trust and work together among all generations. First, we need to foster genuine collaboration through diversified engagement practices and emotional narratives. The traditional approaches that we use to engage and communicate with young people just haven't resonated with them. So we need to find ways to communicate differently by creating authentic partnerships. This includes creating initiative, ensuring inclusivity, adopting accessible and relatable communication methods. Secondly, we need to rebuild trust. There's a lack of trust among young people in the EU and organizations that stems from feeling disconnected and overlooked. And there's disengagement and skepticism because of that. We need to rebuild this trust through transparent communication. We don't know how much of an impact our voices are actually having, but it's so important for us to understand how our contributions are valued and implemented. One way to do this is through creating youth groups. It's a great way to show encouragement, to empower us, and also to convey a sense of accountability and trust. Finally, we can elevate youth voices in bioeconomy debate by adopting a deliberate democracy approach. This means putting emphasis, and this is important, on inclusive and representative dialogue. We need to have a voice, and it needs to be heard in dialogue and also included in political decisions. We can create formal youth advisory boards that give us a voice at the actual decision-making table. And Adelaide touched on this too. We are able and capable to be part of complex conversations. I mean, we grew up around the topic of sustainability, and we know a lot about it. So, even though young people may feel unable and discouraged to participate in bioeconomy matters, if we break down those barriers, we unleash a wave of creativity, resilience, and passion that can drive us to the bioeconomy that we need and want.
So it's up to me now to talk a little bit about bioeconomy education. And for us, it was important to build these holistic views and give you some cues and highlights on things that we feel that are important and we feel that needs to change. And the first one, as we have seen in the meme, we are more excited about bringing this interdisciplinarity, as Professor Lewandowski also referred, and inclusion. And this means bringing bioeconomy and breaking the bubble outside the environmental sciences, bringing social sciences, art, philosophy, and other subjects that can help to make bioeconomy even more transformative. This is what we need. We need to expand our views and bring more people together. And related to inclusion is about also closing this age gap and having more events like this one where we bring young people and facilitate this intergenerational dialogue and having the complex conversations and the difficult conversations that we need to have. The second point is about life cycle thinking and systems thinking that we need. It is important that we give these tools not only to bachelor people or graduates, but to kids in order to build this mindset where kids can grow and navigate through complex systems, and they can see how things are interconnected. So it's not only about having complex conversations, it's giving the tools that we need to have and navigate these complex challenges. And the third one, topic that we talk in education, is the link between academia and industry, and how important is this communication in order to address the needs and find cooperation. And one of those linkages are, of course, young people. And we talk about paid internships and mentorship programs that can link and push people to the job market more easily. We also talk about creating a bioeconomy knowledge sharing platform that can enable all the stakeholders to be voiced and to connect. We also talk about consumer behavior and how, of course, education has a big role on that, because nowadays we feel like part of the problem is that people aren't connected to nature. And an example that we give that is to create voluntary work that is related to environment in order to connect people and young people to the nature again and build this connection to nature to learn about bioeconomy. And we also need more programs in food and nutrition literacy. It's important to foster this diversity on the plate. And by that, we are just helping farmers to plant and cultivate more diverse cultivars, and that builds a more resilient environment. So it's all linked together. We need to provide more tools and more literacy on food to people. And the last topic on education, it's also important. It's about science communication, and we have among us a few examples in Bioeconomy Youth Ambassadors. Some of us are science communicators. And how important it is often disregarded by scientists outside of their scientific bubble. And it's important that we equipment and trained scientists and young people can play a special role in that, since we are more acquainted to the social media and we can reach people on other platforms. So that's the take on education. So move next.
Hello. So I'd just like to start off firstly by asking for a show of hands. So who believes that bioeconomy can really be a realistic alternative to our degenerative fossil fuel economy? Okay, great. Seems we're all on the same page. So who then believes that we can continue with our infinite exponential growth of our economy on a planet with finite resources? Okay, this is going to plan. So, who believes then we should aim to reconcile our economy within its biological limits? Okay, still going to plan. So, who believes then that this should be reflected in the EU bioeconomy strategy? Okay, so we'll go from there then. So, when we look at growth, we have this idea of green growth. Unfortunately, anyone who's willing to look at the evidence of green growth can see that this is a myth. There's zero evidence of decoupling environmental pressures from our economic growth, and particularly when we look at the rate that it needs to happen at. Even the most successful decoupling countries in the world would still need over 220 years to be able to decouple at a rate sufficient with the Paris Agreement. They'd blow their fair share of their carbon budgets 27 times in the process. In 220 years, if we allow this to happen, we won't be here anymore. Yet this is the strategy we're still pursuing. Strategy I'm putting in inverted commas. This is despite actually crossing 1.5 degrees of warming over the last 12 months. We've crossed 1.5 degrees of warming. This was the target set out in the Paris Agreement. We've already broken through that. We're in the middle of a literal mass extinction event. I'll say that again. We are living in the middle of a mass extinction event. And according to the State of the Climate Report of 2023, time is up. So this festival, it's called the Bioeconomy Changemakers Festival. It's not called the Bioeconomy Cheerleaders Festival. So, youth as a driver of transformative change. When we think of transformative change, it requires us to go to the root causes of our problems. The root causes: capitalism, colonialism, patriarchy, white supremacy, anthropocentrism, that's a hard word to say. We need to challenge these things that have been manifested in our degenerative and destructive economic system. In the State of the Climate Report 2023, the very first recommendation they make is on the economy. It's about sufficiency for everybody rather than excess for the few. We need to live simply so others can simply live. So, our vision for the bioeconomy to reflect this, our vision for bioeconomy is a harmonious system that emphasizes interconnectedness between its parts and supports the well-being of all life. The well-being of all life. It seeks to encourage the sustainable use and regeneration of our planet's resources, minimizing consumption within ecological limits, and embracing a circular approach to the use of feedstocks. So, changing this growth paradigm, we know it won't be easy. We know that actually it will probably be the collapse of our ecological and social systems that will choose this for us. We then need to think in terms of adaptation and mitigation. We need to start building the new system as the old one becomes obsolete, and we believe the bioeconomy to be that system. We need to start building diverse, regenerative bioeconomies where people are able to meet their needs locally. And actually being here today, and actually the EU bioeconomy team have really given us faith that we can do that together. So really, thank you for that. We know we want the same thing. And today we present this new vision, and we'd really love all of your help in co-creating this vision, co-creating the conditions that are conducive to all life, present and future. Thank you.
the following part of the vision is dedicated to the use of biomass as a starting material, of course, for bioeconomy. As mentioned by Dara, the two keywords are adaptation and mitigation as well in this context. So, as mentioned by the meme and the scroll of truth, thinking that just burning biomass it's sustainable, it's a no-go. We might say on the internet it's a red flag, okay? Definitely we cannot believe in that. We have to develop a system where biomass is used in a conscious way, following, for example, cascading principles, and in considering all the planetary boundaries, biodiversity as well. So we don't have to consider biomass or nature in general are just a repository of raw material, because if we look at biodiversity, there's so much value, and I'm not talking only about economic value, a lot of other values, also social, related to it, and so much potential also lying in biodiversity. So here in the vision, we go through different aspects of biomass, and I would like to go from the big ones to the little one. So let's start with the most obvious form of biomass, which is plants. That's why I sat close to the plant, that it's like touching me, so I feel really green, let's say. So of course, when dealing with plants, we have two topics that are agriculture and forestry. So in the vision, we go deep into that topic, talking about resilient agriculture. It was already discussed about diversifying and so on. One of the things that I would like to stress now is the fact that we need also transformative change, also in terms of age of the people engaged in those topics, in those fields, because farming is not an attractive career for young people, okay? In the European Union, for example, is not. So we need to make it more attractive for the people. And we need also the same for forestry. Also the same applies to women engagement. So we need diversity, both in terms of age and gender as well. So for forestry, we don't have to consider forests as just repository to extract resources from it, but to have a conscious use of forest as well. So from plant, we can go to animals. And unfortunately, and I stress unfortunately, when we are considering animals for bioeconomy, we're just considering it as a source of food, okay, in the sense of eating animals. And I don't need to stress enough the fact that, of course, eating meat, too much meat, is detrimental for our environment. So what we are stressing in our vision also is to strongly reduce our consumption of meat and dairy, and also developing more resilience in that field as well, and driving a dietary shift towards a more plant-based dietary. And I'm speaking as a person who eats meat still. But still, I'm also being helped by the ambassador to eating more veggies, so thank you as well. So thank you. Let's say. So, of course, we need to consider that as well. And then let's get tiny. Let's get to cells. And cells can be thought in two ways. First one, related to dietary-based shift. We can think of precision fermentation or cultivated cell-based meat as alternatives to the one that we are using now. Of course, there are technologies that are still growing now, and it's hard also to have the acceptance from the audience because they are very technological strategies. So we need to be able to communicate them in a correct way. So also we ask the European institution to help us communicating in a more convincing way also to the local, national countries, and also to single people, let's say. But also tiny means also superpowers, okay? Because microbial cell factories can be used to transform biomass, especially sugars, in something completely different. So it's it's a kind of magic, but actually it's, I mean, it transforms grapes into wine, so it's great, let's say. Of course, I'm biased because I work with yeast, definitely 100%, but it can be used, we can exploit microbial biodiversity, microbial metabolism that evolved for hundreds of millions of years, to transform strange starting materials into fine biochemicals that can be used for different purposes that could be also in principle biodegradable, and still we need to be aware on how to use that. Then let's get even further. What's even inside the cells? There's DNA, and DNA is of course related to biotechnology. In the SOTEU 23, Ursula von der Leyen, you might have heard of her, I guess. I'm not asking you to raise questions, raise your hands for that. She said that biotechnology is a key set of technologies important and will be key for 2024, as mentioned by Elisabeth Werner. There will be the initiative very soon. Nevertheless, in the bioeconomy strategy, biotechnology is mentioned like 2-3 times, something like that. This, of course, annoys me personally because I'm biotechnology. But then, of course, it's hiding like a much big potential of biotechnology in general for a lot of topics, but also related to DNA technologies. DNA technologies like from transgenesis to gene editing or the new genomic techniques that are related to it. And also, I mean, my elephant in the room is the topic of GMOs and synthetic biology, as was mentioned before, the production of insulin from not pancreas, and actually it's from a GMO. So we need also to address this fear-mongering that has been developed during these years. So to conclude, we definitely need a tiered system where we use biomass for the highest value for the production of, I don't know, pharmaceutical, of other fine chemicals, and then a midterm with the production of biomaterials, let's say, and then the lowest value for production of bioenergy, for example. So we need this nested category to use in a proper, conscious way biomass. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I will explain our fifth and final key message. But before I do that, I would like everyone to imagine that it's the year 2050. You're all there. If your knees and back hurt a little bit more, that's completely normal. So you just went to get a cup of coffee. It was 25 euros, but you're part of the happy few who can still afford this luxury. You just uploaded the news directly to your brain and you're going through the headlines. First one, massive biodiversity extinction due to increased land use. Oh, no, next. Second, you read, global conflict increases due to biomass and over biomass and fertile land. Oh, okay, next. This is the headline you were looking for. Great success. Europe becomes the first climate neutral continent. In this scenario, you as a bioeconomy changemaker, because that's what we all are, we are here, are you looking back gladly? Are you happy with the transition that we made? Obviously, I know your answer, but what this exemplifies is that we should not use climate neutrality as our holy grail. And while all of you probably agree with that statement, or at least partly, I, as a sustainability assessment professional, encounter day to day that it really is still the holy grail for many companies and for many policymakers when they make decisions. So that is why in our fifth statement, in our fifth key message, we give 3 recommendations on what we should account, what are the true burdens and benefits of the bioeconomy, of the transition that we should account for. And these 3 recommendations are, first, we should acknowledge that the bioeconomy is part of a larger economic and societal change. In the bioeconomy, everyone is a stakeholder. And it's the most vulnerable communities that will be affected most by this transition. So there will be trade-offs, and we must make explicit how we will use subsidies to help those who are on the losing side of the coin. Secondly, our second recommendation is when we're allocating budgets to innovations, we have to use holistic sustainability assessment methods. And when we do this, we should not only account for the burdens, the carbon footprint or the environmental footprint as a whole, but also for the benefits that these innovations can have for ecosystems. So for example, when we look at sustainable agricultural practices, we should credit it for the benefits it can have in preserving biodiversity, increasing soil health, and so forth. Thirdly, our recommendation is linked to financial decision making, where we should not only account for the economic costs, but also the true social costs and the environmental costs that a product or a service may have. So that when in the future, in 2050, we buy our coffee or our round-trip flight to Brussels, that we pay the fair price for every product. To conclude, I think, just like you, we, the Bioeconomy Youth Ambassadors, believe that bioeconomy can be a key enabler in a fair and just transition, but we do have to do it in a just way. And if we do that, I think in 2050 we will be able to look back with pride on what we have achieved, and we will still believe and be confident about the way that will be ahead. Thank you.
Thank you very much to our youth ambassadors for setting out very clearly, your 5 key messages, and then within that, the recommendations. And it's clear that a lot of thought went into that, a lot of reflection, and you've touched on many different aspects. And in a little bit, we're going to open up the floor and engage with other youth organisations and to find out your reflections on that. But before I do that, I'm going to invite us to show on the screen, please, the Slido that we had going on, because we asked you, what's the elephant in the room? And it has changed a little bit as a result of people listening to, because I was watching it on screen, and some elements that came forward, fear is still in the middle, anxiety, being scared, etc., uncertainty. Human behaviour emerged quite strongly as you were speaking about the importance of dealing with that. Structural injustices has come forward. This question about, growth obsession, I think youth tokenism, I think that speaks to what you were talking about. That it's overwhelming, that there are trade-offs, justice trade-offs. Rural issues have appeared on there. Concerns there about, a tech fix and the issue of inequality. But we've also got some people who are feeling hopeful. For them, the elephant in the room is that there's optimism, there's an opportunity. There's issues of people who can see the benefits and hope for the future generations, but you've got issues there around trade coming up, the concern about capitalism and profit and growth, the growth obsession. So many of the elements that you spoke about are being echoed by people. That's what they're seeing as the elephant in the room. Now, and thank you for helping contribute to this. We've actually got a very short time frame because we're running a little bit late, but we would like to do a little bit of interaction around that issue of, can we please leave it up on screen, the Slido, the elephant in the room, please? Would you like to invite the audience to move around, please?
Yeah, so what we were thinking then for this part to try and facilitate some intergenerational dialogue is firstly, the EU is very generous with who they call a youth. They give it up to 35 years old. So could we ask everybody up until the age of 35, if you could be a youth ambassador, to please stand up?
Ambassadors,
okay.
please stand up.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Sadly, that's not me anymore. But,
so what we want to ask is everybody standing up is to look for somebody that's sitting down, pick somebody out that's still sitting down, and...
Yeah, okay, so now that you're standing up, please leave your belongings at your seat. And I'm so happy to see how many of us are standing up. Amazing. Okay, so find someone who's sitting down and go sit down next to them. That's your task for now. I'll give you a couple minutes to do that.
Yes, if that's needed. Do you want me to take over to the next bit? Yeah, okay. Right. Let me just tell you what you need to do. That's the problem.
Yeah,
giving you
maybe I
half
should.
instructions.
Okay, so now that you've all almost kind of sat down, so as you see, just...
Sorry, could we have your attention, please? Hello?
Yeah, just a quick second so you know what you're supposed to do. So now that you're sitting down next to someone who's younger or older, so as you see, there are words on the screen, and I would encourage you to pick a word, either one that you wrote or any other word, and discuss it. Because after all, even though we're from different generations, we're all on the same side. We've all raised our hands, and we've all kept our hands down. So we're on the same side. So let's talk about what we feel about our future, just for a few minutes.
Yeah, so it's going to be 5 minutes, and I will call it to a close. That means you've got sort of a couple of minutes each. We just want to see the generational perspective on some of these words. Okay, so choose a word on there and explain what that makes you feel. Okay? Go ahead. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. What a buzz in this room. We've really triggered some conversations, but we need the conversations to stop now, please. We need you to please stop your conversations to come back. Yeah. Oh, that does it. Right next to the microphone. Thank you. So we're going to demonstrate what we'd like you to do next, because this was such a lovely, buzzy conversation. We're going to invite you to take a selfie of the people you were talking to and to share that selfie with the bioeconomy hashtag. Yeah, here we go. That's what we want you to do, so it contributes to the conversation. So take your picture, selfie time, please. Whoever you are talking to. We only gave half the instructions. Great. Okay, so thank you for that. At least I know we've guaranteed a whole series of photos that will be tagged in the EU bioeconomy social media presence. Who knows, maybe we'll be trending. So that was the first part of our youth engagement session, which was the youth ambassadors had a chance to present themselves and then their thinking, their reflections, which has been fed by your thoughts, your inputs, your contributions. And thank you very much, those who shared their input. You got an acknowledgement in the document. We encourage you to download it and use it and share it. But now what we're going to do is we're going to have a youth assembly. So we give you an opportunity to hear from other youth organizations what their reflections are. So I'm going to invite some organizations to come up and join me. So I'm going to invite Cristina Cipriano from the Global Youth Biodiversity Network Europe, Connor Ho from Generation Glass, Georgia Ivan from She is a Scientist, German Vigi from Gene Sprout, yes, please come take a seat, and Mao Isaac from the IADA Sustainability Club Barcelona. So please come and join me up on screen. And we have also two satellites who are going to be joining us remotely, and I'll go to them in a little bit once we've spoken with us, but we have joining us on screen colleagues from Denmark and from P2 Green, and we'll call them up later, but they are part of our conversation. So, what I'd like you, we've had this great presentation by our youth ambassadors about their thinking, their 5 key messages, and they've explained a little bit more. What we'd like to hear from you is, what did you think about the vision? What did you agree with? Is there something you'd have liked to see more emphasis on? There's an empty chair here because, in fact, we're going to have Johan Lieberton from the Global Bioeconomy Youth Champion, but unfortunately he was unwell and unable to travel here today, but we acknowledge his input and his participation. So let me start with Connor from Generation Glass. The question for you was, what did you think about this? Is there anything that we need to emphasize more? And how did you, do you agree with the elements that came out in the Youth Ambassador's vision?
Yeah, thank you. Hi everybody. Really happy to be here, and thank you for the chance to talk about it, to talk about this statement. I think it's a really valuable blueprint for. Up here, this is better? Yeah. Great. I think it's a really valuable blueprint for how to integrate youth perspectives into the heart of the bioeconomy. I know when my colleagues and I at Bioorbic, the Irish Bioeconomy Research Centre, as we were reading it, we were finding a lot in it that was resonating with what we were already working on. So this idea around a focus on education and outreach, a focus on inclusivity. And I think something that really I admired was that you guys came back to again and again and again this idea of the bioeconomy as holistic, And that's been mirrored by a lot of what other speakers have said this morning as well. And I think that is really, I think that's the approach that we need to take. This is, as Elizabeth was saying, all sectors are involved, all sectors are affected, and we can use this as a way to tackle climate, tackle biodiversity, and tackle social injustice as well. Yeah, so I think as you mentioned in the document, the crises that we're facing are alarming, not just for young people, but for everybody. And I think what you have here in this vision statement is a call to action, not just for young people, but for everybody. So, well done.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So a warm well done to our youth ambassadors. They really have managed to capture some of the things that you were seeing in your own area. So Georgia Ivan from She as a Scientist, what was your view when you read the document? What would you like to see emphasized more? What did you agree with in the vision?
Yeah, thank you, and good morning to all. And as a representative of She as a Scientist, I want to share with you our comment to the vision that we found very important. And as an Italian association to enhance the contribution of women in science, freeing scientific skills from the image that every woman wants to show of herself. For us, the vision is important because we are here now to speak about innovation and development and being able to have an intersectional and inclusive approach to science with the strength of this vision, and to extend the gender gap in decision-making and sustainability assessment should be tackled, promoting a more diversity-oriented process to include all the actors and point of view. And inequality should be addressed with an intersectional approach and inclusive consideration of all the dimensions. And we can represent barriers or added values, such as gender, social and economic status, also education and age. Furthermore, women entrepreneurship should be encouraged as an asset to able to tackle the climate change and sustainability related challenges. Indeed, from an environmental point of view, women are the most affected by the climate and the environmental crisis. So we must support them and boost a more sustainable approach based on the society and to have more social-oriented method. Improving the engagement of young girls in the debate and in scientific projects to find new solutions and innovation is so important to encourage them to pursue a career in STEM and to make their voice more important, to create role models to be inspired by. So in conclusion, as an association, we continue to support this type of initiative because we believe in the impact of multiple levels is fundamental, and not only from the bottom as an association, but as an institutional level like this, to be more inclusive, equitable, and for development and innovation. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. Christina Cipriano from the Global Youth Biodiversity Network.
Yes. Sorry. Okay, this should work now. Hi, everyone. I'm actually also a researcher focusing on the impacts of climate change on terrestrial ecosystems to understand ecological responses and forecast future scenarios for biodiversity. But I'm here today as the coordinator of the European chapter of the Global Youth Biodiversity Network, representing the voice of youth in COP negotiations under the Convention on Biological Diversity. And I will be reading our joint statement. As representatives of the Global Youth Biodiversity Network Europe, we commend the vision outlined by the EU Bioeconomy Youth Ambassadors. Recognizing the intricate interplay between biodiversity conservation and sustainable bioeconomic practices, we scrutinized key elements of the proposed vision to assess their alignment with biodiversity preservation and objectives. The bioeconomic activities and ecological integrity. By emphasizing interconnectedness and the equitable sharing of resources, the vision signals an intention to mitigate biodiversity loss and promote ecosystem resilience. Furthermore, the integration of cascading principles and biomass utilization strategies is a positive step toward minimizing negative impacts on biodiversity. By prioritizing the highest value applications of biomass and promoting the valorization of side streams and residual biomasses, the bioeconomy endeavors to reduce pressure on natural ecosystems. This approach aligns with the principles of sustainable resource management and underscores the importance of preserving biodiversity hotspots and critical habitats. However, we note that the bioeconomy's reliance on biomass feedstocks necessitates careful consideration of land use implications and potential trade-offs with biodiversity conservation. While bioeconomy initiatives hold promise for promoting circularity and reducing dependency on fossil fuels, intensive biomass production may exacerbate habitat fragmentation, land degradation, and loss of biodiversity. Therefore, it is imperative to adopt a precautionary approach and conduct thorough environmental impact assessments to safeguard vulnerable species and vulnerable ecosystems. In addition, we believe it is crucial to ensure that sustainable food systems prioritize biodiversity-friendly agricultural practices, such as agroecology and regenerative agriculture, to minimize negative impacts on biodiversity while meeting the nutritional needs of a growing population. Nevertheless, we advocate for more explicit incorporations of biodiversity considerations into bioeconomy policies and decision-making processes. While the vision outlines broad objectives related to sustainability and equity, specific mechanisms for biodiversity conservation and restoration are less elaborated. We urge the inclusion of biodiversity indicators and targets within bioeconomy frameworks, along with mechanisms for monitoring and evaluation to ensure proper adherence to conservation objectives. In conclusion, by integrating biodiversity considerations into all facets of bioeconomic planning and implementation, we can strive toward a future where economic prosperity is harmonized with ecological resilience, ensuring the well-being of present and future generations. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. German Vigi from Gene Sprout Initiative, would you like to share your comments?
Thank you very much. I would like to start thanking to the youth ambassadors for the opportunity to share our vision. We really think that it's very important to take into account the voice of early career researchers into the policy making. I'm going to proceed to read our statement. We were very excited when we had the opportunity to be involved in this project. And we are convinced that the document resulting from this initiative will ignite a much needed dialogue on the transformative potential of biotechnology. From our organization, we underscore the pivotal role of these innovations in driving the circular economy forward, bioeconomy forward, and we feel that the vision documents represent it very clear. By mimicking nature, we can unlock countless solutions to the pressing challenges facing humanity today. Our commitment to harnessing the power of biotechnology stems from a deep-seated belief in its capacity to revolutionize industries, mitigate environmental degradation, and improve the present and future quality of life for everyone. In addition, as we look towards the horizon of possibility, we welcome the initiative stated in the documents that actively engage consumers and the broader public. We are convinced that through collaborations, efforts, and knowledge sharing, we will bridge the gaps between theory and practice, empowering citizens to be part of the change. In this line, we advocate for the implementations of education programs and science outreach initiatives in partnership with universities. This initiative will hopefully cultivate a culture of curiosity and discovery, but also foster the next generations of leaders in the field of bioeconomy. Lastly, evidence-based policymaking. In today's complex and interconnected world, the necessity for policymakers and politicians to make decisions based on evidence has never been more critical. By grounding legislation in solid scientific evidence, we will be able to navigate the intricate challenges facing society with clarity and foresight. Decisions informed by evidence not only inspire confidence but also pave the way for sustainable solutions that address the pressing needs of our communities and safeguard the well-being of future generations. Main priorities clearly stated in the vision document. While the path to achieving these ambitious goals remain for the moment undefined, we from Jeans Proud trust policymakers to lead with an evidence-based approach in shaping the new EU bioeconomy. We are convinced that the vision document is an excellent starting point. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now.
Thank you so much to begin with for having me here. I'm representing EADA's Sustainability Club. It's so nice to see so much youth here in the room today. Let me give you a little bit of a story of how I came to be here today. Actually, one of the youth ambassadors, Dara, is a professor at my university. And through a simple LinkedIn post, he called for other youth groups to come and contribute and give our thoughts and feedback on the vision. And so within 24 hours, a classroom of 25 other students were gathered, and we had an incredible conversation. Really, really interesting with, there was no expert in the room, yet everyone had some really valuable insights and out-of-the-box perspectives to bring to the conversation. So yeah, all this to say that the youth, we are here, we want to be involved, we are willing, and we want to be part of the conversation. And to have a space at the table, education should be a main priority. And this is not only at university level, but well before that, also in schools. So yeah, we just want to emphasize those two key messages, which is having youth, but not only youth, also women and other minorities, which are also those that will be probably most affected by what's to come, and education. So yeah, just to conclude, we need each other. We need to work together. We have the solutions, as we've previously heard from other speakers. We have the solutions. We just need to be brave enough today to implement the next steps to get towards the sustainable future that we're looking for. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, I promised that we have two organisations online that would also like to share their perspectives, and then I will invite some of the youth ambassadors to respond to the feedback that they've had. But let's start by seeing, can we connect into colleagues in Denmark? So that's Willem Thompson and Mathilde Didensborg. Hello, there you are. We can see you. What would you like to share?
Hello, thank you, and greetings from Denmark, and thank you to the authors for the great work. This youth vision is a great achievement, and we are honored to be given the opportunity to contribute.
Today, we put forward the discussion notes representing the views of more than 100 Danish young people, ranging from climate activists to young farmers. From the Libertarian to the Socialist youth parties, collected at a satellite event we held last Monday.
We are particularly excited about the section in the youth vision concerning responsible use of bio-based resources. We would like to highlight the points about the EU needing to review and update regulations to promote biotechnology in Europe as particularly important. Furthermore, we applaud the vision's focus on the valorization of innovative technologies such as trans and cisgenesis and gene editing.
One thing that we are a bit concerned about is Vision's premise that degrowth is inevitable whether we choose it or not, as well as the statement that decoupling is impossible. We are convinced that these statements are not representative of the broad European youth's perception of bioeconomy, which we experienced at our satellite event. We instead discussed how bioeconomy should secure growth with biosolutions and replacing fossil fuels. We named our satellite event "It's Time for Green Revolution," calling for fast-track solutions to create a bioeconomy. One thing that is lacking from the youth vision is the urgent need for a uniform CO2 tax on all industry within the EU and by extension, a green border adjustment mechanism. These solutions were continuously brought up by participants at our satellite event.
Furthermore, we think that the EU should make it easier for green technologies to enter the European market. The approval processes for novel foods and GMP should be significantly shortened and liberalized, with regulatory processes focusing on the final genetic product rather than the process to produce it. This involves setting up a European authority that can guarantee a competitive processing time for applications for new genomic technologies. There was also a wide consensus at our satellite event that the European agricultural subsidies should favor not only area and livestock, but also take sustainable new methods into account, such as vertical farming.
Once again, we would like to thank you for the opportunity and hope the inputs of the Danish youth will be considered in the making of eventual proposals from the European Commission. Thank you.
Thank you very much to Willem and Mathilde, particularly for your beautiful summary of what sounded like a really well-developed and balanced conversation. And I like the fact that you brought in people across the different spectrum, politically and from economical backgrounds. That's really useful. Thank you very much. It's very helpful. Now we're going to go to a satellite event called P2 Green, and I'm hoping I can speak to someone called Nicola Parfit. Nicola, can we connect to you, please?
Yes. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. So my name is Nicola, and I'm here representing P2 Green, joining you from Sweden. And P2 Green is an EU-funded project working on upscaling different sanitary nutrient recycling systems. So personally, I work with urine recycling, and we try to turn it into a solid fertilizer for agricultural use, and this to reduce nitrogen and phosphorus emissions. And within this P2 Green project, we also organized a satellite event to engage youth just 2 days ago on Monday. And we largely spoke about the urgent need to include youth in the bioeconomy. And we want to contribute to doing that with our project, which is why we think this bioeconomy vision is absolutely indispensable for us as well. And during the event, it became very evident that investing in bioeconomy education to promote a widespread understanding of its potentials and challenges is vital, just like the bioeconomy vision's second key message suggests. And our vision for the bioeconomy places a strong emphasis on empowering youth and shifting them from mere participants to key decision makers. And we also really value the emphasis on responsible use of valorization of bio-based resources to reduce waste, which is exactly what we do at the P2 Green project. So we think the key messages are really inspiring and vital for a future flourishing bioeconomy. But despite being beyond impressed of all the points that the youth ambassadors managed to include in the vision, we would also wish to incorporate a few more elements that we believe could make it more effective. First, we're big advocates of altering school curriculums to include bioeconomy education from an early age. But at the same time, we also think it's really important for youth to have role models, and often seeing those you're close to, such as family and other adults, being involved and engaged in something makes it a lot more meaningful and memorable. So we therefore find it important to engage people of all ages in bioeconomy education, which could be done through more community initiatives like community gardens, lighthouses, and more living lab projects. And lastly, whilst us at P2 Green, which is an EU-funded project, really appreciate that the vision includes that the EU should financially support bioeconomy startups even further, we also find it vital for startups to be funded by and receive greater support from local governments. And this in order to incorporate circular economy and bioeconomy systems into current government budgets to ensure that the innovations that we create within the bioeconomy are integrated into society and make it in the long run. So thank you so much for the opportunity to get involved, and thank you so much to the youth ambassadors who've put so much hard work into creating this incredible vision.
Excellent, thank you. So we've now had some feedback from different youth organisations online as well, and some of the satellite events. So I'm now going to invite Stefana and Olivia from the Youth Ambassador Group to come in and just respond to some of the things that you've heard. What would you like to comment on?
Yeah, first of all, thank you very much for the feedback and the additions to our visions. I think there were some really important things here, also some common messages. We found some themes: diversity, education, and knowledge sharing. So yeah, Stefano, you can get started.
Yeah, as a start, I would like to thank all the youth organization, those here, and also that couldn't make it, for helping us for the development of the vision. For sure, we wanted to have a stronger help from these ones, also to have opinions beyond the diversity that already was included inside our wonderful group of the ambassadors. So thank you, and also to the satellites events as a start for being engaged in this festival. From the comments that were delivered here, I thought that there's a key message, a key word that is diversity. So diversity is clearly key in different aspects. So we talk about diversity in terms of gender, which is of course fundamental, in terms of age, and the two of us, Olivia and I, represent this with difference in terms of that, so I'm really glad of that as well. Also in terms of geography, and we saw with the satellites, and we have to take into account that also just considering the European Union, we are much diverse internally in terms of geography. And maybe this should be taught more in schools, talking about education. Then other topics, like from diversity of technology, that we don't have to think that one single technology is the silver bullet that solves all the problems, for sure. It doesn't work like that. Or in terms of education, words of academia. And what about you? What you strike to you?
I'd like to touch on the topic of biodiversity. I mean, in general, diversity breeds resilience, and biodiversity is a part of that. I mean, it sustains all the necessary processes that we have on life and life on Earth. And it's so important that we really make sure that all of our decisions are grounded in sound science, and also comprehensive of their impacts. I mean, if we seek to replace all fossil-based production rates with bio-based ones, while also trying to keep the food system secure and growing GDP, I mean, we need to really consider how can we make that work, and I think we need to make some changes for that. Also, with what you said about women, we're a part of society, and that makes us also an important part of bioeconomy, and that also needs to be reflected. Thank you for that.
Yeah, definitely. Just to conclude, of course, human brain is not accustomed to diversity, something really complex. If we really think that we are smart apes, we need to go a step beyond and try to make that kind of toil and try to understand more diversity. And to do that, we need diversity. So surround yourself with other people that can enrich yourself, as I did myself with all the ambassadors and all the people that were engaged. So you never stop learning, okay, at any age. Okay, so my suggestion for you also to take this opportunity for this event to reach yourself with talking with a lot of people, and go back home with new knowledge and new thinking, let's say.
Okay. I'd like to also address Matilda's speech and point about degrowth. I mean, degrowth and post-growth is often looked at as a complete taboo topic. You can't talk about it. It's like a he who must not be named. And this is also an example. We need to make sure that what we do is grounded in science and comprehensive understanding of its impact. I mean, the only way to grow GDP indefinitely is with genuine decoupling, but as Derek also talked about already, we haven't had any meaningful ones so far, and it likely won't happen in the time and intensity that we need. So, yeah, and we also should ask ourselves, for what? What do we need this indefinite profit for? Maybe you say it's success. The more GDP growth, the more success there is, but how do we define success? Right now, it's like valuing overconsumption while completely missing out on integrity, inclusivity, and just the well-being of all life. So please consider what's important to you, and let's move on with what really is important to us.
Thank you. I'd like to thank this panel, invite you to return to the audience, please. Thank you for your inputs and your contributions. And for the next sort of 10 minutes or so, we're going to have an open floor. So we've had structured contributions from youth organizations, but now I have in my agenda, it's sort of Q&A with the audience. So the floor is now open for you. We have colleagues over there with microphones, they can come to you. For those of you who are online, you can submit a question via Slido. We'll look at that, and the youth ambassadors will be here to answer questions. So if I can invite some of the youth ambassadors to come and join me, because I can't answer on your behalf, so you need to come join me. We've got a couple of questions already in from Slido, but let me look in the room. Who would like to? I've got a couple of hands up. I'm going to privilege young people first, if I can. So I've got a gentleman there. Yes, can you see? And there was somebody who came to me who wanted to speak. She's over there. Yeah, okay. There's the lady in a red jacket. You can stand up so they can bring a microphone to you. There'll be a microphone coming over to you in a second. Please go ahead.
All right. Good morning or good afternoon, colleagues. My name is Gideon Adudonyina. I perform teaching and research duties at the University of Szeged in Hungary. Yeah, it's a great opportunity to be here, to be part of this great festival on bioeconomy. I have just a question which has to do with what the world has taught us in the past couple of years, right from the onset of coronavirus, then Russia-Ukraine war, and one simple lesson we learned from these two situations is that certain local issues cannot be addressed locally because they have got global impact that are inevitable or unavoidable. I see bioeconomy as one of these, that whether we like it or not, we cannot afford to keep bioeconomy only within the European continent. Okay. Because if we are successful in the European continent and we fail in the African, in the American, and then in the Asian continent, the impact of the failure in the other continent will unavoidably affect the European continent, although the European continent as a single continent was successful in bioeconomy. So my question then is there any footpath plan for inclusivity, as we mentioned, with these other sectors or these other geopolitical regions of the world, so that together we can succeed together? And then I will be glad to be part of those who will join hands to maybe be ambassadors or representatives from these other geopolitical regions like the African region. Yeah, so thank you very much.
Thank you, Gideon. I'm sure that we will take you up on that idea to join hands and go to another region. We'll take that intervention there, and we'll take one question from Slido, and then we'll take another thing. So you can choose amongst yourself who's going to reply to that, to Gideon's message about the other parts of the world. Yes, please go ahead.
Hi, I'm Marije van Veldhoven. I'm 23 years old. I'm a young farmer from the Netherlands. We have a dairy farm at home and we produce insects. The population is growing by the day, and the primary sector, meaning the farmers, have a huge responsibility in feeding all of those mouths, and at the same time, taking care of our precious earth. In your youth vision, you're talking about a circular farming, meaning plants and agroforestry. But I'm missing a little bit the role of the livestock. At this time of age, I feel like animal husbandry is becoming a little bit of a dirty word. I think we forget that when you want, for example, a plant-based diet, and when you want to grow crops, you still need manure. And animals are capable of producing that manure on land that isn't suited for herbal farming, like in the polder in the Netherlands or Belgium, or in the Alps in Austria. So I think there are more ways in which we can help each other in becoming circular. And when I'm looking at my home, at my situation, I think farming and nature should go hand in hand. And the difficulties we face at home is that our business model isn't up to par to take that step forward. We diversified into producing insects, but that was because our dairy cows couldn't sustain a living wage. So that's quite a big challenge we're facing now. So I'm really looking forward to how your vision is of how we can translate your vision into practice. And I would really like to invite you all, your youth ambassadors, to come to my farm and have a good discussion about how we should take that step forward. So thanks.
Thank you very much, Marie. So you might want to think who would like to respond on that. And we've got a couple of questions on Slido, and several of them coming up with this issue around investment. And if the bioeconomy is considered with a paradigm shift away from a growing economy, and you touched on that, how can this realistically be implemented without being out-competed globally? So I'm coming to you for that, because that's an economic question. So we've got some questions about animal husbandry, that, what's its role in agriculture? It's not a dirty word, it's part of farming, and we need to make sure that farmers have a living wage while still having livestock on their farm. And we've got this question from Gideon about, Europe cannot be a sort of shining jewel of the bioeconomy if the rest of the world goes to pot. This is something we have to do together, and how do we make sure in a fair and just way we do that? So I don't know who would like to pick up on that.
Should we do them in order?
Any way you like, guys. This is your panel.
I'll start responding to Gideon. Thank you for your point. You're right. If we implement a completely sustainable bioeconomy in the EU, it is not going to solve our world issues and climate issues. It will alleviate something, but not enough. So yes, this is a collaborative, collective challenge, and it would be rather ignorant to think that one continent or one country alone can solve this. It's really difficult to work together sometimes with political conflict and everything going on, so that's understandable. But I think we need to, first of all, talk to each other, cultivate dialogue, and also do what we can here. I mean, if we implement a good example bioeconomy, we show people that it's doable, and we show that it's okay to question the current systems you have and to look beyond those. So yeah, dialogue is, I think, the key until then.
Thank you.
I would like to build on your answer, so also answering to Gideon. 2 weeks ago, I was in Kenya. I was there for work, trying to set up collaborations with a lot of the universities and institutions there. It was really great to see all the expertise that was there. Well, one challenge is, of course, how can you work together? When it's in Europe, it's easy. There's a lot of funding. There's a lot of opportunities. So we try to find ways, and there is actually also coming from Europe opportunities, Africa, Europe Horizon projects. It exists. So there are things, but I think it can definitely be expanded, and it needs to be expanded because there are so many challenges that both continents face. For example, we will work together on marine-based proteins, on textile recycling. So I think, as Olivia mentioned, obviously we are not in silos. There are some extra barriers, cultural, the distance, but I think it's so important to work on this together. And maybe your question was actually not really directed to us, but rather to the actual policymakers. but I do think that these types of initiatives should be expanded.
Thank you. Dara.
So yeah, I'll answer. So is the question there somewhere?
Yes, at the top.
So if bioeconomy is considered a paradigm shift away from a growing economy, how can this be realistically implemented without being outcompeted globally? So when we talk about paradigm shift, we're thinking about systems change and going to the root causes of the problems. And actually, competition is one of those things. We deliberately, in this vision, we didn't even center humans. We centered all life. We don't want to compete, actually. I think that's one of the beauties of the European Union, and the beauty of bioeconomy is actually connection and collaboration. And this competitive mindset that we have is really at the root of our problems. So what we actually want as youth is international collaboration. It's working together with our supposed threats. It's making sure everybody has enough, and that our excess consumption and accumulation isn't somebody else's destitution. So when we talk about a paradigm shift, it goes further than competition and actually towards creating the conditions conducive to all life, regardless of where they are.
Thank you. I think Stefani wanted to touch on, and I'd like to make sure we get an answer to Marie if we can.
Yeah. Okay. So also thanks for your question regarding animal farming and so on. So this is definitely a hot topic. I definitely see the point that it's hard to address that topic. So that's why we wanted to handle that. That's for sure. It was complex in writing for the vision, for not just saying, okay, let's opt out meat, let's say. The idea, collective idea, is to promote plant-based diet, being aware of the also conscious dietary shift on that sense as well. Then, of course, each of us has its own single vision. Like, for example, we never discussed insect consumption, for example, among us. I personally think it's great. It's a great option. But, of course, I suggest you to talk like specifically because, as mentioned, we have internal diversity, which is great. I learned also myself a lot. So, for sure, like, for example, I'm always wondering, and we kept discussing about this, and I think there's no single solution. Like, I don't know, if we develop as biotech like a process to exploit the waste material from dairy sector, is something where you should put your money on, or you're just fostering that sector as well? So it's a huge question mark, because I mean, as a biotech, I would say, okay, let's go with that. But I also understand those saying, okay, we should reduce that consumption, that it will be like fostering that thing or justifying that thing as well. So it's one of the questions that we need to put at the center of the table, because I agree with you, we always have the fear to discuss about these things. So I'm really glad that you managed to opt it out, to take it out. And of course, I mean, I'm from Italy. If you touch like meat and dairy, cheese, I will be arrested at the airport when I arrive home. And probably I will, so please someone save me. Not even mentioning cultivated meat, this is another story. But thanks a lot for the question. There's no a single answer, but definitely was one of the hot topics to be discussed. And I have to address it very shortly, and also run out of my time when discussing it, so sorry to everyone, because it was a lot of topic to discuss. But in principle, I suggest you to discuss with all of us, and thanks for the invitation to the Netherlands. I will go when I'm escaping from Italy. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. I can see we've had more questions from the audience and online, but time is against us. We're now at 12:40, and we're supposed to finish in the next 3 minutes. So I want to say this isn't your only opportunity to engage with our youth ambassadors and with the vision. We still have another full day of conference, so please make sure you bring up your issues. I've looked at the questions on slide, and I'll try and make sure they get brought in to further conversations. So the next element in this is we've presented to you the work of the youth ambassadors, and they worked really hard. They engaged, they outreached, they listened, they consulted, and they produced their vision, which is their own responsibility. We said that at the beginning, this is yours, but we would now like to offer them an opportunity to formally hand over their work, hand over their vision to the European Commission, who commissioned them to do it in the beginning and invited them to do that. And I just want to recognize that, at the beginning we said that young people are not afraid of complexity. This stuff is tough. It's systemic, it's complicated, it's connected, and the messages that have come through have been really quite extraordinary. It's covered the economy, it's covered politics, it's covered, injustice, it's covered a way of thinking, and I think we should acknowledge all of that thinking that went into it. In fact, there was a question on Slido earlier when we were talking, Professor Lewandowski was talking about interdisciplinarity. Somebody immediately pinged up, what about philosophy students? How do we get philosophy students engaged? So we've seen that there is a fire being lit here, that people are interested in it. And the Youth Ambassador's vision was meant to be a discussion piece. It was meant to be a snapshot in time of what young people from across the geographies and disciplines could come forward as an input to European policy making. So if I could now invite John Bell and Peter Werheim to come up here on stage in order to receive it. The ambassadors will formally present this. Yes. And we're going to have a photo moment. So perhaps it might be easier to do it over there, and all the ambassadors could go with your documents in order to formally hand it over. Yes, please, all of the youth ambassadors who are here, you were part of the process. If you would like to download it, we're showing you on screen the QR code, so you can download the document, you can take it away, read it, share it, use it. But this is the moment that acknowledges the close of the work of the mandate of the youth ambassadors and acknowledges some very hard work that they did. Yes. That's a degrowth approach. So we've been invited for them to all autograph one document that can be kept in the commission. So now it leaves, I'm now going to reward all of you who are here with lunch. Those of you who are watching online, we're going on a lunch break, and we will come back, I think, at 2 o'clock. So in the meantime, for those of you who are here, we're offering you lunch downstairs, and please take the time to visit the exhibition booths. We've also got a photo booth, so you can take your picture with the event logo and share it on social media to continue the discussions. But thank you. This was the Youth Assembly. It was a lively and very different exchange, but it reflects the nature of this process. So thank you all. Bon appétit, and see you later.